Game Week 10, Day 5, The Escape from Breachfront. Part 1, Secure Data Shards and Server Core Objective. Campaign Arc, Children of the Rift, Urban Arcology Adventure. Session Time, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Setting, Simulacrum Studios, Crucible Table, Sector 7 Neural Hub Overlay. Theme, Strategic Planning, Foreshadowing, Faction Pressure. Out of Game, OG, Simulacrum Studios, 10 a.m. The Crucible Table hums to life, projecting a rotating schematic of the Syndicate Repository Data Center deep in Sector 7's Neural District. Sunlight streams through the tall studio windows, illuminating the table as the delvers trickle in with coffee cups and lingering fatigue. Jonah, Bill Hader, slouches dramatically into his seat, tossing a data chip across the table. Flavia, Felicia Day, flips through breachglass notes with a laser focus. Marcus, Michael Knight, leans over the table, arms crossed, eyeing the hollow map's red glowing anomalies. Nyx, Jessica Chastain, is already interfacing with the repository data center schematics, sifting through layers of security feeds. Steve, GM, leaning forward, tapping the hollow display. All right, Delvers, yesterday's recon gave us a glimpse of the data center layout. Today, we're breaching that thing. Jonah, Bill, grinning, I knew it. We can't have a peaceful market visit without getting shot at the next day. Marcus, Michael, half smirking, you're the one who threw breach grenades. Nyx, Jessica, calmly, eyes on the map. Drone patrols increased around the data center perimeter overnight. Syndicate must know something's off. Steve flicks his wrist, expanding the map to show breach anomalies skirting the data center entry points. Steve, GM. There's a choice ahead. 3 possible routes to the vault. Choose carefully, because one wrong step and you'll have half the Syndicate chasing you. In-game, IG, Neural District Entry Planning. The virtual projection shifts, immersing the delvers in a full 3D overlay of Sector 7's Neural Hub. The data center looms in the distance, shielded by shimmering metasphere barriers. The entry points flicker in sequence. Marcus, Michael, pointing at the maintenance tunnels on the map, I say we take the tunnels. We can avoid Syndicate patrols and stay below their sensors. Jonah, Bill, rolling a breach grenade lazily between his fingers. If we go that way, we'll need to clear out those breach rats. Again. Flavia, Felicia, wrinkling her nose. I'm not thrilled about crawling through more tunnels, but it's better than getting scanned every 5 steps. Nyx, Jessica, coolly, tunnels it is. We'll need stealth, though. I can handle surveillance nodes. Steve leans in with a grin, sliding breachglass encounter cards across the table. Steve, GM. Roll for route planning. Let's see if those tunnels are as clear as you think. Game Die Marcus, perception roll, DC 14 Game Die 16, successfully identifies weak patrol spots along the maintenance tunnel route. Game Die Nyx, electronics roll, DC 15 Game Die 18, disables minor surveillance nodes along the way. Game Die Jonah, luck roll, DC 12 Game Die 14, manages to avoid triggering breach wildlife on the path. Narrative progression, data center approach begins. The hologram fades as Steve nods approvingly. The route is set. Marcus leads the team through the lower tunnel systems, Nyx monitoring security feeds as Jonah hums to himself, breach grenades jingling softly in his belt. Flavia walks silently behind, already scanning for breach anomalies. Steve, GM. You enter the tunnel network, breach glass veins twisting along the walls. The data center waits ahead. Let's see how long the quiet lasts. Next segment, Part 2, Neural Hub Entry, 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Data center infiltration begins, and Syndicate patrols tighten their grip. Part 2, Neural Hub Entry. Campaign Arc, Children of the Rift, urban arcology adventure. Session time, 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Setting, Sector 7 Neural Hub entry point. Theme, stealth, negotiation, minor combat. Out of game, OG, Simulacrum Studios, 11:30 a.m. The Delvers return from a short break, settling back into their seats around the Crucible table. The data center projection hovers midair, waiting for the next phase. Steve shuffles encounter cards as Jonah tosses a breach grenade up and down absent-mindedly. Steve, GM. Smiling knowingly, all right, Delvers. You're approaching the Neural Hub entry point. Let's see if Marcus' tunnel idea keeps you under the radar. Jonah, Bill. Laughing, worst case, I get to use this. Marcus, Michael. Calmly, let's hope it doesn't come to that. In-game, IG, Neural Hub entry. The team emerges from the tunnel system, stepping carefully into a side corridor just beyond the main syndicate checkpoint. Drone patrols hum overhead, following set routes along the perimeter. Nyx taps into her breachglass interface, quickly analyzing surveillance nodes. Nyx, Jessica. Whispering, surveillance nodes are live. I can disable a few, but the drones will keep circling. Marcus holds up a hand to halt the group. A syndicate officer stands nearby, casually checking his data pad. Marcus, Michael. Gesturing toward the officer, we can bribe him, but it'll cost us. Flavia, Felicia. Eyeing the scene, if he says no, we'll have to fight our way through. Steve, GM. All right, Marcus. Roll for charisma. Game die Marcus. Charisma check. DC 12 game die 15. The officer eyes Marcus for a long moment, glancing at the rest of the group. His gaze lingers on Jonah, who flashes a toothy grin. Syndicate officer, NPC. Raising an eyebrow, smirking slightly. You guys look like trouble. What's in the case? Marcus, Michael. Calm, handing over the credit sheet discreetly. Just a routine calibration job. Tech support from Sector 3. You know how it is, cables break, systems glitch. Syndicate officer, NPC. Weighing the chit in his palm, glancing toward the checkpoint camera. Yeah, I know how it is. I also know when someone's not on the schedule. The officer leans slightly toward Marcus, his voice lowering. Next time, bring 2 chits. I'll pretend you didn't just walk in with breach grenades rattling under that jacket. He taps the console, lowering the entry barrier. You've got 10 minutes before patrols circle back. Don't let me see you twice. Jonah, Bill. Grinning, see? Talking's easier than grenades. Flavia, Felicia. Smirking, for now. In-game, IG, minor encounter. Drone calibration disruption. As the team moves deeper into the hub, a faint humming echoes from a side room labeled Restricted Access, Neural Calibration. Nyx's HUD flickers as interference pulses from within. Nyx, Jessica. Tapping her breach glass, calibration drones. They're shifting patrols. I can delay them, but we'll need to move fast. Game die Nyx, electronics roll, DC 15 game die 16. Drones slow down, providing a 5-minute gap for passage. Jonah slips ahead, crouching behind a low console. His eyes flick between the drones and a blinking red surveillance node. Jonah, Bill. Grinning, I'll take care of the alarm. Game die Jonah. Stealth roll, DC 13 game die 14. Jonah avoids detection, but knocks a loose panel, shifting the drone's route. Flavia, Felicia. Noticing too late, heads up. There's a second camera. Game die Flavia. Perception roll, DC 14 game die 12. The secondary camera activates, triggering a low-grade alarm. Steve, GM. You've got 2 rounds before guards respond. Marcus, you're up. Marcus, Michael. Kneeling by the panel, I've got this. Game die Marcus. Engineering roll, DC 14 game die 17, disables the alarm just in time. Narrative progression, security clearance gained. The team slips through the checkpoint undetected, blending with the contractors filtering into the hub. Marcus leads the group toward the data center entrance, pausing to glance at the flickering breachglass lights overhead. Nyx continues running diagnostics, mapping the remaining patrol routes. Steve, GM. The path ahead is quiet, for now. Let's see how far you get before things heat up. Next segment, Part 3, Market District Negotiations, 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. The Delvers encounter syndicate black market vendors and cryptic warnings. Part 3, Market District Negotiations. Campaign Arc, Children of the Rift, Urban Arcology Adventure. Session time, 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Setting, Sector 7 Market District. Theme, Diplomacy, Trade, Random Encounters, Subterfuge. Out of Game, OG, Simulacrum Studios, 1 p.m. Jonah returns with a fresh drink, spinning his dice between his fingers. Steve adjusts the holo display, shifting the projection to Sector 7's bustling underground market. The tone lightens, but an undercurrent of tension remains. Steve, GM. Grinning, rolling a D10 behind his screen. Welcome to the Market District. Let's see if you attract any unwanted attention. Game die random encounter roll. Game die. Steve rolls behind the screen. Result to be determined by GM based on the roll outcome. If 7 or higher, proceed to encounter below. In-game, IG Market District. The market hums with life as syndicate black market vendors haggle beneath flickering breachglass lanterns. The alleys are packed, a blend of mechanics, delvers, and shady corporate agents exchanging illegal breach tech. Marcus pauses at a vendor stand showcasing breach stabilizers, the price tags far steeper than usual. Marcus, Michael. Frowning, prices are high today. Something's off. Flavia, Felicia. Narrowing her eyes, markets like this spike when syndicate pressure's heavier. Jonah's gaze flickers to a group of syndicate enforcers standing at the far edge of the market, casually inspecting nearby stalls. Jonah, Bill. Grinning, relax. This is where I shine. Nyx glances toward a vendor with breach grenades displayed under the table. Nyx, Jessica. Calmly, I'll handle the tech. Just don't trade our rations for grenades again. Game die Marcus, perception roll, DC 14 game die 16, spots a suspicious figure shadowing the group. Marcus, Michael. Quietly, someone's tailing us. Nyx, check the nodes. Game die Nyx, electronics roll, DC 15 game die 17, hacks a nearby surveillance node, briefly cutting syndicate cameras. Jonah, Bill. Chuckling, let's introduce ourselves. What's the worst that could happen? Steve, GM. Rolling again. Funny you should ask. Looks like the tail's not alone. If random encounter is triggered, proceed below. Combat encounter. Syndicate patrol ambush. Setting, Sector 7 Market District. Alleyway offshoot. Out of game, OG, Simulacrum Studios, 1:30 p.m. Steve leans forward, adjusting the encounter map overlay on the Crucible table. The alley offshoot darkens as 2 syndicate patrol units flank the Delvers. Dice rattle as Jonah warms up his breach die. Steve, GM. Grinning. Looks like you stepped a little too close to their operation. Roll for initiative. Game die initiative order. Jonah, Bill 16. Marcus, Michael 14. Syndicate Officer 1, NPC 13. Nyx, Jessica 12. Flavia, Felicia 10. Worst case, I get to use this. Syndicate Officer 2, NPC 9. Round 1. Jonah, Bill. Grinning, flicking a breach grenade in his hand. Time to set the mood. Game die attack. Breach grenade. DC 14 game die 15. Direct hit. The grenade explodes between the two officers, dealing 8 damage and disorienting them. Marcus, Michael. Raising his rifle, covering you. Flavia. Loop around the left. Game die attack. Burst shot. DC 13 game die 17. Hits Officer 1 for 10 damage. Syndicate Officer 1, NPC. Staggers. Drawing a breach baton. You're dead, Delver. Game die attack. Baton strike at Jonah. DC 12 game die 11. Miss. Nyx, Jessica. Hacking a nearby surveillance node. Shutting down the exit path. They're not calling backup. Game die electronics roll. DC 15 game die 18. Node disabled. Flavia, Felicia. Flanking left with breach dagger drawn. You should have stayed quiet. Game die attack. Dagger strike. DC 13 game die 16. Officer 2 takes 9 damage. Syndicate Officer 2, NPC. Bleeding, retreating, fall back. We need backup. Round 2. As the fight escalates, distant Syndicate chatter crackles over nearby comms. Reinforcements are inbound. Steve, GM. Rolling behind the screen, 2 more officers are rushing in from the north entrance. Game die initiative roll. Syndicate backup. Game die 14. Officers enter initiative order. Syndicate Officer 3, NPC. Rushing in with baton raised. Stand down or we'll make you. Syndicate Officer 4, NPC. Covering with breach pistol. This is your last chance. Jonah, Bill. Mocking. More friends for the party. I'm flattered. Game die attack. Breach grenade. DC 14 game die 13. Partial hit. 5 damage to Officer 1. Marcus, Michael. Repositioning to shield Flavia. Focus fire on the new arrivals. Game die attack. Rifle shot. DC 13 game die 16. Hits Officer 3 for 8 damage. Steve, GM. Backups here, but you're holding strong. Let's see how long you last. Marcus, Michael. Finishing the fight with a rifle burst. Let's end this. Game die attack. Rifle shot. DC 13 game die 19. Critical hit. 15 damage to Officer 1. Officer 1 drops. Steve, GM. Nodding. Officer 2 retreats into the crowd, but they won't forget you. Narrative progression. Syndicate tension rises. The patrol steps away, but their gaze lingers. Flavia pulls Marcus aside, voice low. Flavia, Felicia. Grimly, they'll remember us. We should move quickly. Jonah, Bill. Grinning, tucking away the grenade. That's the plan. Steve, GM. All right, let's see how much trouble you can stir up before Part 4. Next segment. Part 4. Data acquisition setup. 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. The team shifts focus to acquiring critical breach data within the district. Part 4. Data acquisition setup. Campaign arc. Children of the Rift. Urban arcology adventure. Session time. 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Setting. Sector 7 Neural Hub. Market adjacent data center. Theme. Infiltration, investigation, foreshadowing. Out of game. OG. Simulacrum Studios. 2:30 p.m. The Crucible table's holographic display flickers, shifting from the market district map to a blueprint of the data center facility. Steve taps on breachglass nodes representing potential entry points. Jonah leans forward, still spinning his breach die casually. Steve, GM. Gesturing to the map. All right, market's behind you, but the data center is next. Syndicate's going to have eyes everywhere after that brawl. Marcus, Michael. Nodding. We'll need to stay low and quiet. How tight is security? Steve, GM. Tight enough. Patrols have doubled, and breach drones are circling the hub. but there's a vent system running along the lower levels. Nyx, Jessica. Smirking, finally, some classic infiltration. Are circling the hub. But there's a vent system running along the lower levels. In-game, IG, data center perimeter. The Delvers crouch in the shadows of an alley adjacent to the data center. The air hums softly from Metasphere interference, causing their breachglass visors to flicker faintly. Nyx kneels, interfacing with a nearby security panel. Nyx, Jessica. Whispering, I can loop the cameras, but it's temporary. We'll have maybe 2 minutes before they reboot. Game Die Electronics Roll, DC 15 Game Die 18, surveillance cameras successfully disabled. Flavia, Felicia. Grinning. Let's make it count. Jonah adjusts the breach grenades on his belt, scanning the area. Marcus signals for the team to advance. Marcus, Michael. Calmly, we move now. Stay close and quiet. Minor encounter. Data center access panel puzzle. As the team approaches the access panel, breachglass glyphs shimmer over the doorframe, indicating Metasphere locks. A soft pulse vibrates beneath their feet. Steve, GM. Data center sealed. You'll need to solve the breach glyph puzzle to bypass it. Game Die Flavia. Intelligence roll. DC 16 Game Die 17. Decodes the glyph pattern, partially unlocking the door. Jonah steps closer, rubbing his hands together. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. All right, let me help speed this up. Game Die Jonah. Engineering roll. DC 14 Game Die 15. Assists Flavia, reducing lock bypass time by 30 seconds. Jonah, Bill. Watching the entrance nervously. Any chance you can do that faster? I think we're about to get company. Game Die Marcus. Perception roll. DC 14 Game Die 14. Spots incoming syndicate patrols 40 meters away. Marcus, Michael. Urgently, they're circling back. Nyx, get ready to loop the feeds again. Game Die Nyx. Electronics roll. DC 15 Game Die 16. Extends surveillance loop by 1 minute. Nyx's breachglass flickers as she accesses a hidden subroutine, revealing deeper layers of the security network. Lines of code flash rapidly across her HUD, and her fingers dance across the holographic interface. Nyx, Jessica. Focused, there's a secondary grid. I can piggyback on their drone control protocols, but it's risky. Game Die Nyx. Advanced hacking roll. DC 17 Game Die 19. Gains temporary control over 2 surveillance drones. Steve, GM. Raising an eyebrow, nice. The drones are yours for the next 3 minutes. Use them wisely. Nyx smirks, guiding the drones to obscure nearby patrol routes, creating gaps in the syndicate's perimeter. Jonah, Bill. Laughing. Now that's what I call multitasking. Game Die Flavia. Perception roll. DC 14 Game Die 18. Notices a faint shimmer behind a nearby wall panel. Flavia, Felicia. Gesturing to Marcus. Hold up. There's something behind this panel. Marcus kneels, prying open the breachglass frame to reveal a hidden cache. A small stabilization unit and encrypted data shard sit nestled inside. Steve, GM. Looks like you've found a hidden stash. Mark it in your inventory. Loot acquired. Breach stabilizer MKI. Encrypted data shard requires decryption. Minor encounter. Data shard decryption. As the team regroups inside the data center, Nyx examines the encrypted data shard under flickering breach light. Her breachglass HUD floods with cascading glyphs. Nyx, Jessica. Kneeling beside a console, I can crack this now, but we risk tripping a Metasphere alarm if the shard's rigged. Marcus, Michael. Grimly, do it. If it's worth hiding behind a breach wall, it's worth knowing. Game Die Nyx. Decryption roll. DC 17 Game Die 19. Decryption successful. Nyx's screen floods with fragmented data, partial schematics for an unidentified syndicate facility deep beneath Sector 12. One word pulses at the bottom of the decrypted file: obelisk. Steve, GM. Tech. Fragmented. Leaning in, voice lowering, you've unlocked something big. The obelisk is a Metasphere vault rumored to house ancient breach tech. Syndicate's been guarding this intel closely. Jonah, Bill. Whistling, I'm guessing they won't be thrilled we peeked. Marcus, Michael. Smirking, good. That means we're on the right track. Narrative progression, entering the data center. The Metasphere glyphs click softly as the door slides open. The team slips inside just as syndicate officers approach the area. Steve, GM. Flipping an encounter card, you're inside, but the real challenge starts now. Surveillance drones sweep the halls. Keep moving. Next segment, Part 5, Data Center Interior, Breach Data Retrieval, 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. The team begins their deeper infiltration into the data center's restricted sectors. Part 5, Data Center Interior, Breach Data Retrieval. Campaign Arc, Children of the Rift, Urban Arcology Adventure. Session time, 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Setting, Sector 7 Neural Hub, Interior Data Center. Theme, Infiltration, Puzzle Solving, Combat Risk. Out of Game, OG, Simulacrum Studios, 3:30 p.m. The lights dim around the crucible table as Steve zooms in on the data center's interior blueprint. The room falls silent as everyone leans in, watching the holographic pathways flicker with breach light interference. Steve, GM. Adjusting his breachglass screen. All right, you're inside. Syndicate drones are sweeping the main corridor, and the breach data vault is 3 levels down. What's the plan? Jonah, Bill. Grinning, tapping his dice, I say we skip this sneaking and head straight for the vault. Flavia, Felicia. Dryly, or we try not to get shot in the first 5 minutes. Marcus, Michael. Nodding to Nyx, loop the drones. Let's keep this quiet. In-game, IG, Data Center Interior. The data center hums softly as breach light pulses along the floors and walls. The delvers step carefully, Nyx leading with her breachglass interface scanning ahead. Faint echoes of Syndicate Enforcer boots reverberate from a distant hall. Nyx, Jessica. Whispering, surveillance drones ahead. I'm looping their path. Game Die Electronics Roll. DC 16 Game Die 17. Drones temporarily disabled for 3 minutes. Marcus, Michael. Peering down the hall, there's a terminal up ahead. Could be linked to the vault security. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. Bet it's rigged. Game Die Jonah. Perception Roll. DC 14 Game Die 15. Spots hidden breach triggers along the terminal. Jonah, Bill. Laughing, called it. Your turn, Flavia. Flavia, Felicia. Kneeling by the terminal, let me see what we're dealing with. Game Die Flavia. Investigation Roll. DC 15 Game Die 18. Identifies a layered breach lock on the terminal. Steve, GM. Breach lock confirmed. You can try to bypass it, but failure trips the alarm. Game Die Nyx. Hacking Roll. DC 18 Game Die 19. Breach lock bypassed successfully. Marcus, Michael. Smiling, smooth as ever, Nyx. Minor encounter, reflection disturbance. As the breach lock disengages, the terminal flickers, and the surrounding breach glass ripples unnaturally. A faint humanoid reflection steps from the metasphere, distorting as it solidifies. Steve, GM. Leaning in, a reflection entity emerges from the system. Roll for initiative. Game Die Initiative Order. Jonah, Bill 16. Reflection Entity, 14. Marcus, Michael 13. Nyx, Jessica 12. Flavia, Felicia 10. Worst case, I get to use this. Round 1. Jonah, Bill. Drawing his pistol. You know what fixes reflections? Bullets. Game die attack. Breach pistol. DC 14 game die 15. Direct hit for 8 damage. Reflection entity. Phasing. Unauthorized. Presence. Detected. Game die reflection entity. Energy pulse. DC 13 game die 12. Miss. Marcus, Michael. Swinging his breach blade. Let's finish this quickly. Game die attack. Breach blade. DC 14 game die 17. Hit for 10 damage. Nyx, Jessica. Focusing breach glass energy. Stabilizing interference. Game die support action. Stabilize. DC 15 game die 16. Interference reduced. Steve, GM. Reflection destabilized. It fades back into the metasphere. Narrative progression. Approaching the vault. The team moves deeper into the data center, reaching the entrance to the breach data vault. A final security door stands before them, locked by glyph alignment nodes. Steve, GM. This is your last obstacle. Solve the glyph puzzle to enter. Next segment. Part 6. Breach Data Vault Puzzle. 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. The final puzzle barrier stands between the Delvers and the vault secrets. Part 6. Breach Data Center Puzzle. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift. Urban Arcology Adventure. Session time. 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Setting. Sector 7 Neural Hub. Breach Data Vault. Theme. Puzzle solving. Tension. Loot opportunity. Out of game. OG. Simulacrum Studios. 5 p.m. Steve adjusts his notes, laying out breach glass puzzle tiles across the crucible table surface. Jonah eyes them warily, tapping his dice rhythmically. Flavia grabs a quick snack, pacing as she studies the projected glyph patterns. Steve, GM. Grinning. All right, Delvers. The data center is in front of you. But the lock is nothing simple. This is high-grade Metasphere security. Marcus, Michael. Leaning forward. How long do we have before the drones cycle back? Steve, GM. You've got 7 minutes before the patrol sweeps this section. Jonah, Bill. Stretching. Plenty of time. Unless Flavia breaks it. Flavia, Felicia. Deadpan. You're first in line for the rift collapse if I do. In-game, IG, breach data vault exterior. The vault door looms in front of the Delvers, glowing with faint metasphere glyphs that shift and shimmer as if alive. A breach glass panel nearby projects interwoven patterns of energy, each node pulsating with encrypted data. Marcus, Michael. Tracing a glyph with his glove. These aren't just locks. They're harmonic nodes. Cut one wrong, and we might trigger an alarm. Nyx, Jessica. Kneeling by the console, it's a metasphere lock. I'll need to sync the glyphs with breach frequencies. Game die Nyx. Hacking roll, DC 18 game die 16. Partial success. Glyphs flicker but resist alignment. Steve, GM. The glyphs shift unpredictably. You're on the right track, but you need to stabilize the pattern. Jonah, Bill. Sighing. Time for brute force. Game die Jonah. Strength roll, DC 15 game die 14. Attempts to force the vault mechanism, but narrowly avoids triggering a failsafe. Flavia, Felicia. Calmly, move aside. Game die Flavia. Intelligence roll, DC 17 game die 19. Correctly aligns the outer glyphs, locking 2/3 of the vault nodes into place. Marcus, Michael. Watching the shifting glyphs. One left. I'll stabilize the core frequencies. Game die Marcus. Engineering roll. DC 16 game die 18. Vault core stabilized. Final lock disengages. Steve, GM. Nodding. The vault clicks and slowly slides open. Inside, breach light filters through rows of suspended data shards. Narrative progression. Vault exploration. The delvers step inside the vault, rows of breach data hovering like faintly burning stars. Nyx approaches the central console, her breachglass pulsing with incoming Metasphere signals. Nyx, Jessica. Quietly, there's more here than data. Some of these shards, they're encrypted signatures. Syndicate blueprints. Game die investigation roll. Group check. DC 15 Game die 20. Uncovers hidden syndicate asset logs and a concealed vault compartment. Steve, GM. Revealing map tiles. Beneath the central console, you find a sealed box. Breach locked. This could be valuable or dangerous. Loot acquired. Syndicate data shards 3. Breach stabilizer MK2. Unknown sealed vault case. Breach fire grenades 2. Encrypted Metasphere key. Experimental rift modulator. Grants temporary breach stability in combat. Legendary. Voidglass dagger. Phases through Metasphere constructs. +2 to stealth attacks. Rare. Echo gauntlet. Breach energy discharges cause knockback. Chance of stunning targets. Mythic. Riftborn's cloak. Grants invisibility when passing through Metasphere distortions. Experimental rift modulator. Grants temporary breach stability in combat. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. Shaking the sealed box lightly. What's the worst that could happen? Marcus, Michael. Groaning. Why would you say that out loud? Combat encounter. Syndicate ambush at data center exit. Setting. Sector 7 Neural Hub. Data center exterior. Out of game. OG. Simulacrum Studios. 6 p.m. Steve sets down his GM screen slightly, smirking at the delver's cautious expressions. The crucible table flickers, highlighting multiple hostile signatures surrounding the data center exit. Jonah sharpens his pencil dramatically, tapping it like a blade against his breachglass tablet. Steve, GM. Rolling dice behind the screen. You thought getting the data was the hard part? No. Now you have to leave with it. Jonah, Bill. Mocking. I knew shaking the box was a good idea. Marcus, Michael. Dryly. You're carrying it out, Jonah. In-game, IG. Data center exit. Sector 7. As the delvers step out into the corridor, the soft hum of breach light intensifies. Marcus halts mid-step, his breachglass visor flickering with proximity alerts. Marcus, Michael. Whispering, contact. We've got company. Game die perception roll. Marcus, DC 15 Game die 16. Syndicate operatives detected before the ambush fully triggers. Steve, GM. Narrating. A half-dozen Syndicate Enforcers emerge from shadowed alcoves, breach rifles raised. One steps forward, visor gleaming crimson. Syndicate officer, NPC. Hand over the case and maybe we'll let you leave breathing. Jonah, Bill. Grinning, cracking his knuckles. Yeah, that's not happening. Game die initiative order. Jonah, Bill 17. Syndicate officer, NPC 15. Marcus, Michael 14. Nyx, Jessica 12. Flavia, Felicia 11. Syndicate operatives, X 410. Round 1. Jonah, Bill. Flicking a breach grenade in his palm, let's start the party. Game die attack. Breach fire grenade. DC 14 Game die 16. Hits 2 operatives for 8 damage. Syndicate officer, NPC. Firing at Marcus. Suppress them. Game die attack. Breach rifle. DC 15 Game die 13. Miss. Marcus, Michael. Raising breach blade. Jonah, cover me. Game die attack. Breach blade. DC 13 Game die 18. Hits operative for 10 damage. Nyx, Jessica. Hacking nearby security node. Cutting drone support. Game die electronics roll. DC 16 Game die 17. Security drones neutralized for 2 rounds. Flavia, Felicia. Darting forward with dual breach daggers, stay low. Game die attack, dagger strike, DC 14 game die 15, hits for 9 damage. Steve, GM. 2 operatives down, but the officer rallies the remaining forces. Round 2. Jonah, Bill. Ducking behind cover, someone get the door open. Game die Marcus. Engineering roll, DC 15 game die 19, data center exit unlocked. Flavia, Felicia 11. Syndicate operatives, X2. Laying down suppressive fire. Game die attack, rifle spray, DC 14 game die 12, Mrs. Nyx and Flavia. Nyx, Jessica. Gesturing to Marcus, let's move. Narrative progression, escape route secured. The Delvers push through the exit, Syndicate forces regrouping behind them. Flavia activates a breach stabilizer, sealing the corridor temporarily. Marcus, Michael. Panting, they won't follow us far. But next time, they won't miss. Jonah, Bill. Laughing, we're alive. I call that a win. Steve, GM. Roll for initiative. The Syndicate isn't letting you walk out without a fight. The Syndicate isn't letting you walk out without a fight. Asterisk. Next segment. Part 7. Data Center Exit and Pursuit. 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. The vault is open, but Syndicate forces are closing in. Escape won't be easy. Part 7. Vault Exit and Pursuit. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift. Urban Arcology Adventure. Session time. 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Setting. Sector 7 Neural Hub. Data Center lower levels. Theme. Chase. Tactical Escape. Syndicate Ambush. Out of Game. OG. Simulacrum Studios. 6:30 p.m. The atmosphere around the table is tense. Steve adjusts the breachglass encounter map, marking Syndicate patrol routes in red along the vault's perimeter. Jonah spins his dice idly while Flavia glances toward Marcus, ready to move. Steve, GM. Leaning over the table. All right, the vault's open, but Syndicate operatives are converging fast. You've got 5 minutes of calm. After that, the chase begins. Jonah, Bill. Grinning, 5 minutes? Plenty of time to loot. Marcus, Michael. Sternly, or time to plan our exit. In-game, IG, vault interior. The vault door creaks open wider, revealing the glowing breach stabilizers and encrypted Syndicate shards. The soft hum of Metasphere energy fades as Nyx pockets the remaining data drives. Nyx, Jessica. Securing the shards. I've got the last of the data. But something's pinging security. Game die Nyx. Electronics roll. DC 15 game die 17. Detects inbound Syndicate Enforcers from 2 levels above. Marcus, Michael. Checking his breachglass visor. They're sealing the upper levels. We'll need to find another way out. Jonah, Bill. Tossing a grenade lightly in his palm, or we make our own exit. Flavia, Felicia. Shaking her head. Too loud. There's a maintenance tunnel just below this floor. Game die Flavia. Investigation roll. DC 14 game die 18. Discovers a concealed hatch beneath a server core. Minor encounter. Escape path puzzle. A heavy breach glass panel covers the tunnel entrance. Energy locks hum faintly across the surface, tied to a Metasphere relay node on the wall. Steve, GM. The hatch is locked. You'll need to override the relay without tripping nearby alarms. Game die Nyx. Hacking roll. DC 17 game die 19. Successfully bypasses the relay. Game die Jonah. Strength roll. DC 15 game die 16. Lifts the heavy panel, granting access. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. After you. Narrative progression. Pursuit begins. As the Delvers descend into the maintenance tunnel, red breach glass lights flicker above. The faint hum of Syndicate patrol boots echoes down the corridor. Steve, GM. Rolling dice behind the screen, the patrol spots the open vault. They're on your trail. Game die initiative order, chase sequence. Jonah, Bill 15. Marcus, Michael 14. Nyx, Jessica 12. Flavia, Felicia 11. Syndicate operatives, NPCs 10. Round 1. Jonah, Bill. Sprinting ahead, tossing a breach grenade behind him, slowing them down. Game die attack, breach grenade, DC 14 game die 15, direct hit. Corridor partially collapses, delaying operatives. Marcus, Michael. Urging Flavia forward, keep moving. I'll cover the rear. Game die attack, burst fire, DC 13 game die 16, hits advancing operatives for 8 damage. Nyx, Jessica. Activating breach scanner. I found an exit, 200 meters ahead. Flavia, Felicia. Running ahead, I'll scout forward. Game die Flavia, perception roll, DC 15 game die 17, notices a secondary tunnel fork, offering a safer path. Narrative progression, splitting the chase. The Delvers follow Flavia's lead, breaking into the side tunnel as Syndicate forces close the gap. The pursuit continues, but the group gains distance. Steve, GM. You've shaken them for now, but Syndicate won't give up easily. The next corridor leads straight to the Neural Hub's outer perimeter. Next segment, Part 8, Escape to Neural Hub Exit, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. The Delvers attempt to fully escape the data center, facing one final Syndicate blockade. Part 8, Meeting the Zion Operative. Campaign Arc, Children of the Rift, Urban Arcology Adventure. Session time, 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Setting, Sector 7 Market District, Hidden Zion Safe House. Theme, Decryption, Diplomacy, Faction Negotiations. Out of Game, OG, Simulacrum Studios, 8 p.m. Steve dims the Crucible table's lights, shifting the holographic display to a darker corner of the Market District. Jonah taps his dice nervously, while Nyx reclines, already guessing the Zion operative's demeanor. Steve, GM. Grinning. All right, you've shaken the Syndicate for now. But this meeting isn't going to be easy. Zion doesn't decrypt for free. Marcus, Michael. Leaning in, let's play it smooth. Jonah, Bill. Mocking, smooth? I prefer loud. Flavia, Felicia. Dryly, let's not get shot tonight. In-game, IG, Sector 7 Market District. The market buzzes with neon haze and murmured deals. As the Delvers weave through the crowd, Nyx leads them down a narrow alley obscured by flickering breach light signs. A hidden door marked with a faint Zion sigil slides open as they approach. Inside, the air is thick with ionized metal and incense. A woman in sleek Zion robes, streaked with digital glyphs, stands by a flickering console. Her breachglass visor hums softly as she watches the team enter. Zion operative, NPC. Calmly, you're late. And Syndicate footsteps linger too closely behind you. Marcus, Michael. Steady, we lost them. But the data shard needs decrypting. Zion operative, NPC. Smiling faintly. Does it now? Zion's services are selective. What's your offer? Game die diplomacy check. Marcus, DC 16 game die 17. Zion operative agrees to negotiate. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. Let's cut to the chase. What's the price? Zion operative, NPC. Gesturing to the breachglass console, assistance in recovering a relic from the Metasphere. One that Syndicate cannot touch. Nyx, Jessica. Suspiciously, you want us to dive into a breach for you? Game die insight roll. Nyx, DC 14 game die 15. The operative's intentions seem genuine, but there's more at play. Zion operative, NPC. Nodding, you'll find it benefits both sides. Minor encounter. Decrypting the data shard. The Zion operative connects the shard to her breachglass, streaming encrypted glyphs across the room. Nyx steps forward, assisting with the decryption. Game Die Nyx. Hacking roll. DC 18 Game Die 19. Decryption successful. Steve, GM. The shard unravels, revealing blueprints for a hidden syndicate facility, designated Obelisk. Coordinates locked to Sector 12. Flavia, Felicia. Raising an eyebrow? Sector 12? That's Syndicate's stronghold. Marcus, Michael. Quietly. And it just became our next target. Narrative progression. Faction tensions rise. The Zion operative closes the breachglass, eyeing Marcus with measured calm. Zion operative, NPC. Obelisk won't stay hidden for long. If you head there, Syndicate will hunt you relentlessly. But Zion can offer safe passage if our relic is secured. Jonah, Bill. Smirking. I suppose we're getting good at vault breaking. Next segment. Part 9. The Path to Obelisk. 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. The Delvers prepare for their next target as Zion and Syndicate forces begin moving in the shadows. Part 9. Return to Simulacrum dormitories. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift. Urban Arcology Adventure. Session time. 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Setting. Simulacrum Studios dormitories. Sector 3. Theme. Reflection. Intel review. Foreshadowing. Out of game. OG. Simulacrum Studios. 10 p.m. The Crucible table dims slightly as the session winds down. Steve leans back, glancing at his notes while Jonah stretches with a satisfied yawn. Nyx quietly organizes her dice, while Marcus taps the data shard they retrieved from the neural hub. Steve, GM. Grinning. Well, you survived Sector 7, barely. Jonah, Bill. Laughing. That Metasphere almost had me. But hey, the breach grenade worked, didn't it? Marcus, Michael. Dryly. You mean after it singed your eyebrows? Flavia, Felicia. Smirking. I'll take burned eyebrows over missing limbs. Small victories. In-game, IG. Simulacrum Dormitory Lounge. The Delvers return to their dormitory quarters, the soft hum of Simulacrum's outer arcology buzzing faintly in the background. A cool blue glow from overhead breach lights casts faint shadows along the steel walls. Flavia, Felicia. Dropping into a chair, tossing her gear to the floor. Well, I'd say that was a productive run. Nyx, Jessica. Plugging the data shard into the terminal, let's see what Syndicate was hiding. Narrative progression. Data analysis. The data shard flickers as Nyx decodes the contents. Lines of fragmented breach code stream across the screen, slowly coalescing into partial Syndicate blueprints and encrypted communications. Game Die hacking roll. DC 16 Game Die 19. Successful decryption. Nyx, Jessica. Raising an eyebrow. This isn't just vault data, it's structural plans for Sector 9. Looks like Syndicate's been expanding breach stabilization nodes there. Marcus, Michael. Leaning in, eyes narrowing. Sector 9? That's restricted territory. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. Guess we know where we're headed next. Foreshadowing. Unstable rift signatures. As Nyx continues decoding, an unusual pattern emerges, faint echoes of Metasphere instability linked to Syndicate construction projects. Flavia steps closer, tilting her head. Flavia, Felicia. Pointing at the breach signature. That doesn't look right. These rift patterns, they match anomalies we saw near Elysium last month. Marcus, Michael. Grimly. If Syndicate is tampering with rift patterns at that scale, they could trigger a Metasphere collapse. Jonah, Bill. Leaning back, arms crossed. So, what? We just stroll into Sector 9 and tell them to knock it off? Sounds fun. Nyx, Jessica. Serious. There's more. Look, these encrypted logs mention a reflection event. It's tied directly to breach stabilization. They're planning something. Game Die Intelligence check, DC 14. Marcus. Game Die 17. Recognizes reflection event terminology. Marcus, Michael. Nodding slowly, reflection events. Those are metasphere echoes that manifest physically. If they harness that, we're looking at weaponized breach tech. Steve, GM. Leaning forward, voice dropping slightly. You're starting to see the bigger picture. Whatever Syndicate's up to, it's bleeding into the metasphere at a dangerous rate. Narrative progression. Session wrap-up. The Delvers exchange glances, understanding that tonight's discovery is only the beginning. As the breachglass window flickers with distant lightning, the screen fades to black. Steve, GM. Softly, all right, we'll pick up next session in Sector 9. Rest up, Delvers. Next segment, Part 10, Session Wrap-Up, Loot, XP, and Character Updates. Next session will involve deeper dives into Syndicate's operations within the restricted zones of the arcology. Part 10, Session Wrap-Up, Loot, XP, and Character Updates. Campaign Arc, Children of the Rift, Urban Arcology Adventure. Session Time, Post-Session, 12 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. Setting, Simulacrum Studios, Crucible Table, Neo-London Overlay. Theme, Reflection, Reward, and Character Growth. Out of Game, OG, Simulacrum Studios, 12 a.m. The players lean back in their chairs, rolling dice absent-mindedly as Steve tallies XP and updates the loot pool. Jonah hums while scribbling notes in his character sheet. Steve, GM. Smiling. All right, let's break down the rewards from tonight's session. Marcus, Michael. Nudging Jonah. I swear if you put Sniper Survivor under skills. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. Hey, dodging sniper fire is a valuable talent. Flavia, Felicia. To Nyx. I'm still not convinced Jonah didn't trigger that Metasphere collapse. Nyx, Jessica. Smirking. You mean the Jonah breach collapse of 2125? It'll go down in the books. XP breakdown. Mission completion. Neural hub escape plus 600 XP. Combat engagements. Syndicate operatives and sniper plus 500 XP. Puzzle solving. Metasphere breach plus 400 XP. Roleplay and team dynamics plus 300 XP. Total XP awarded. Marcus, Michael plus 1800 XP. Jonah, Bill plus 1800 XP. Nyx, Jessica plus 1800 XP. Flavia, Felicia plus 1800 XP. Loot and rewards. Encrypted Syndicate data shard, decoded. Classified intel on breach stabilization nodes in Sector 9. Experimental Rift Modulator, rare. Allows temporary stabilization of metasphere anomalies during encounters. Reflection Glass, legendary. A shard capable of reflecting metasphere energy, shielding the user from breach-related damage. Syndicate Elite Pass restricted. Grants access to restricted Syndicate zones. Usable once before security resets. Character progression and updates. Marcus, Michael. Skill upgrade. Breach awareness +1. Recognizes metasphere distortions faster. Notable moment. Precision callouts during tunnel escape secured the group's survival. Jonah, Bill. Skill upgrade. Improvised explosives +1. Crafts breach grenades mid-session. Notable moment. Successfully suppressed Syndicate operatives during sniper ambush. Nyx, Jessica. Skill upgrade. Hacking +2. Unlocked complex Syndicate encryption with ease. Notable moment. Decrypted critical Syndicate data, uncovering reflection event intel. Flavia, Felicia. Skill upgrade. Tactical analysis +1 identifies weak points in syndicate blockades. Notable moment. Guided the party through breach collapses with precise environmental scans. Foreshadowing. Future threads. As the group reviews loot and updates character sheets, Steve flips his notebook open, tapping a page ominously. Steve, GM. Softly, next week, we'll be dealing with syndicate presence in Sector 9. And, let's just say the breach anomalies won't stay hidden. Jonah, Bill. Playfully nervous, I knew this wasn't over. Marcus, Michael. Grinning, good. We weren't done either. Potential allies in Sector 9. Ronan the Drift, Syndicate defector. A former Syndicate operative now working as a breach smuggler. Possesses insider knowledge on Syndicate tactics and breach stabilization tech. Ronan can provide black market equipment and maps of Sector 9's restricted zones. Ira Valen, Zion operative. A Metasphere specialist from Zion's intelligence division. Ira has been tracking Syndicate activities near breach hotspots. Ira offers encrypted Metasphere access points and enhanced breach stabilizers. Ghost Callers, Resistance Cell. A covert group operating in Sector 9's underbelly, sabotaging Syndicate expansion. They can assist with stealth operations and provide hidden routes through the arcology. Dr. Marcus Thane, Arcology Scholar. An expert in breach anomalies and Metasphere technology. Although eccentric, his insights may prove invaluable in deciphering breach phenomena. Thane offers unique breach artifacts and experimental rift modulators. Next session, Children of the Rift, Sector 9 Breach Stabilization. Prepare for deeper Metasphere incursions and heightened Syndicate operations. Game Week 10 Conclusion. Out of the frying pan into the breach fire. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift, Urban Arcology Adventure. Setting, Simulacrum Studios, Crucible Table. Theme, Reflection, Growth, Story Arcs, and Faction Tensions. Out of Game, OG, Simulacrum Studios, Sunday evening. The lights hum faintly as Steve organizes the breachglass logs for the week. Jonah kicks his feet up on the table, chewing lazily on a protein bar, while Nyx polishes the edge of her breach-laid prop. Marcus reviews hand-scribbled notes, occasionally circling sections that need further exploration. Steve, GM. Leaning back, that was a packed week. You all survived Sector 7, but Sector 12 isn't going to cut you any slack. Jonah, Bill. Mocking tone, survived? We dominated. Flavia, Felicia. Smiling faintly, that breach collapse almost turned us into Metasphere ghosts. Marcus, Michael. Grinning. Jonah's grenade solution didn't help. Weekly XP breakdown. Exploration. Sector 7 tunnels and Market District plus 700 XP. Major encounters. Syndicate ambush and drone combat plus 800 XP. Puzzle solving, glyph vault, and data shard decryption plus 600 XP. Faction influence, Zion operative negotiations plus 500 XP. Roleplay and team strategy, plus 400 XP. Total weekly XP awarded. Marcus, Michael plus 3000 XP. Jonah, Bill plus 3000 XP. Nyx, Jessica plus 3000 XP. Flavia, Felicia plus 3000 XP. Notable loot acquired this week. Encrypted Rift Key, unidentified, unlocks Metasphere gates tied to Zion's relic retrieval. Rift Injector, temporary phase shift device allowing brief intangibility. Tactical Flash Module, enhances low-light visibility, granting perception bonuses. Breach Stabilizer, MKI suppresses breach anomalies during traversal. Fragmented Data Shard, Zion's signature reveals intel on Syndicate's hidden facility, the Obelisk. Faction standing updates. Zion, plus 15 reputation, data shard recovery and operative cooperation. Syndicate, -10 reputation, breach into protected Sector 7 data center. The Vatican, neutral, no significant interactions. Steve, GM. Sliding the Zion token closer to the edge of the board. Zion's warming up to you. Syndicate? Not so much. Nyx, Jessica. Smirking, good. I like it that way. Player reflection and character growth. Marcus, Michael strengthened leadership during combat, improving coordination and hazard avoidance. Jonah, Bill resourceful with breach explosives, though reckless with collapse risks. Nyx, Jessica successfully decrypted critical data shards, advancing Zion's agenda. Flavia, Felicia kept the team grounded, tactically avoiding unnecessary conflict. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. I say we double down and hit Sector 12 head-on. Flavia, Felicia. Dryly. We'll survive longer if we don't take that advice. Foreshadowing next week. The obelisk looms. Syndicate activity is rising in Sector 12, and Zion whispers of a breach vault linked to lost Metasphere technology. Syndicate retaliation. Patrol frequency doubles, raising the likelihood of ambushes in transit routes. Zion's request. Celine hints at a second relic hidden deep within Syndicate's archives, promising substantial rewards if retrieved. Steve, GM. Closing his breachglass display, rest up. Next week? We breach the obelisk. Week 11 Preface, Into the Mind of the Rift. Volume 4, Children of the Rift. The journey deeper into Vault 43 begins